Welcome to the Casual and the Cinephile. I am the Casual, Justin, and this is the Cinephile, William Jacob Freeman the third, Hinkle, third before the Hinkle. It's important. All right, today we'll be discussing the movie Furiosa of Mad Max Saga.
Precisely.
You know what I'm saying? It came out
It came out May of this year.
May of this year, really?
Yes, sir.
That's crazy. I don't know why I thought it came out like a year or two ago.
I told you about the film, but you ignored me. I told you to go to IMAX, but you didn't want to go to IMAX.
And Mad Max Fury Road came out in 2015?
2015.
It's a very stark jump from that to that. Like that's a 5 years. There's more than 5 years of time. Almost
nearly 9 years, 10 years.
That's what I'm saying. It's horrible. It's crazy. So, all right, give us a quick summary of the film.
Well, Furiosa Mad Max Saga takes place before the events of Fury Road, and it shows us the origins of how Furiosa became Furiosa. And to me, it was interesting about her background story and all that. So,
do you have any background knowledge of the film itself that you know, based off like the directing process or the writing process? Any hiccups or anything like that sort?
Outside of the film being a box office flop, then well, there's nothing I could think of at the moment, to be honest with you.
I mean, that's fine. Who was the director?
George Miller.
George Miller.
He directed all the Mad Max films, and he outdid himself again with this film.
Is that the only movies he's worked on?
Well, he worked on other films like Happy Feet, which was
Really?
a different approach. I was surprised too when I found that out.
Happy Feet was amazing.
It is. It is a good film.
It's a classic in the hood.
Precisely, man.
All right, so what are your initial thoughts of the film?
Well, I would say Furiosa was a solid origin story. But the problem I had with this film is that it doesn't have the same feeling as I had with Fury Road. Like, Fury Road felt real. It had some practicality to it. You've seen Fury Road.
I have not. I'll be seeing it sometime soon. That's all I could say.
I'm going to send you to Jesus.
You can try. It's not going to work.
All right. Anywho, I feel like Fury Road had more practicality and more realism to it. But Furiosa felt more CG oriented, which kind of turned me off in a way.
There were definitely times where you could tell, like, all right, like that's a green screen or a blue screen background. Like, it's not a real background. There was definitely, I mean, especially watching. I don't know about the movie experience at the theater. Obviously, I watched at home. So when there's a lot of, like, Marvel does a lot of post-production after the movie hits theaters before it comes to streaming, because they try to mitigate that, right? Because they don't want people at home to notice the finicky CGI, because it's done in a way that it looks stark, beautiful, incredible in the theater. But when you come to a normal TV at your house, your TV can't handle that type of resolution, so you can tell it looks off. So Marvel tries to fix that. In Warner Brothers' case, Warner Brothers does everything half-assed backwards, so it's just like, I was sitting there at times, I'm like, look at that background, fake. Look at this background, fake. The only reason it didn't throw me off too bad is because from me watching all the original Mad Maxes before this, his George Miller, right?
Yes.
His directing style is very interesting. Like in the second one,
The Road Warrior,
you would have scenes where they would speed up the footage to show how fast everyone was going. It was just like, it's just very peculiar. Like, none of these films to me from the very original one back in the 70s. Back like I said in 79 to now, have felt overtly serious in terms of the directing style. There've always been very funny, like, decisions made to help tell the story. So that's why I didn't look at the green screen shit as like it's taking me out of the world.
It's not a big surprise to you?
No, because this is, like I said, his directing style is very peculiar in terms of, like, he does weird things that are just like, why would you make that decision? I guess, like, I don't know if it's more like I said, he literally sped up the footage in Road Warrior in the car scenes. For what reason? I don't know. To make it look cooler, maybe to add some light humor. I don't know. But to me, it didn't hurt the world. It's a nonsensical world. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like having that little bit of nonsensical directing style for the camera work and speeding shit up helped a bit. My issue with Furiosa was three things. Somewhere, like, after the first hour, because it's 2 hour and something long movie.
It's 2.5 hours.
It's a long movie. Somewhere after the first hour, maybe even after the second hour, the film started to feel hollow.
What do you mean by hollow?
As in it started off so strong and everything felt very full, and then at a certain point, I think it was at the point where it was before they killed the guy that she was with, the homie, which I don't know his name,
I
bro.
forgot to, but to me,
What were their titles? They were Praetorians.
oh, Praetorian Jack and Imperator Furiosa.
And so
There we go.
with Praetorian Jack, it was before they killed him. It was when they first, I think, pulled up to Gastown together,
Yeah.
and she saw him. And I don't know, the film to me felt just hollow. It felt as if, like, you're preparing me for a revenge story, and then you're throwing in this, we're gonna run away together, come back, like we're gonna run away back to my where I came from. Here's the little whatever seed.
I see.
And I was just like, it just felt like and obviously you knew it wasn't gonna happen, but it was just like something about it felt hollow. And then you get to the war, they're gonna have the war,
Yeah.
and you didn't show us the war, which I think was a poor decision. They could have really showed us 5 minutes of that war, and we didn't get that.
Well,
Right? Like, I think that was a poor decision because once again, it felt like we were being prepared for something that we didn't get.
but it's for those who have seen Fury Road beforehand, so I wasn't too.
So we got a war in Fury Road.
Yeah, it shows. When you see it, you'll be like, "Holy shit," because it's pretty something.
But if they gave him the budget for that, then I feel like they could have just did it again now. But this is what I'm saying. Like, you could have, if they did it in Fury Road, you could have really showed us like 5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes of an actual clash going on. Because it felt weird too. It's just like she tells the big dude with the white hair,
Immortan Joe.
What's his name? Immortal Joe.
Yeah,
crazy.
I love that. I love that guy.
His design is impeccable. Her telling him, "Oh, if you find him, he's mine." And then, all right, she gets the arm, she gets the car, she goes down there. He's nowhere to be found. The only reason I know he's still alive is because I remember the trailer for Fury Road from back in the day. So if it wasn't for that, it's just like, is he dead? Did he just like? He went down to go to the war, right? Did he war? Did he fight? I don't know. Like to me, it was just like that was part of what made it feel hollow. Like there's something missing here. It doesn't feel as full with storytelling anymore as it was here. The other thing I didn't like it was all because of Chris Hemsworth's character.
Oh yeah.
I didn't like that a lot of his lines, and I
agree 100%.
A lot of the things that his character was saying, a lot of his things that his character did was ramble. And it was like, you're rambling. Is one thing if you have a character ramble because they're trying to get their point across and no one's understanding. It's another thing when you're rambling and it feels like everyone understands the point you made, but you're still rambling. Yeah. Like you're wasting cinema time, right? Like, and me making the argument before, you could have really showed us 2 minutes. Had you taken 2 minutes of dialogue away from him, you could have gave us 2 minutes of this war to give us more context of what happened here exactly. Where is the homie Joe, Immortal Joe? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea where he was. I see his 2 sons. Where's Joe? No idea. One would think the general would be down there. But I guess the battle's over, so why would he be? But give us that context. It was just weird to me. It felt like it was just an odd decision. And then the other thing I didn't like, the only other thing, I did not like that the credits start rolling and then you're showing us snippets of Fury Road. Because you're trying to show us like, look, this ending of this directly ties into the start of this.
Yeah.
Which is fine under normal circumstances. Like I'm sitting there and as the movie's going on, I was wondering, I wonder how soon it ties into the story. All right, because I'm thinking, all right, well, she's younger. Obviously, Charlize Theron looks so much older and more mature, right? Like someone in their 20s. Someone in there, I don't know how old she was when she did, but she had to be in her 40s. So the suspension of belief that you're going to tell me that this Furiosa and this Furiosa, the same Furiosa, to me is a little odd to me because it's like, if I'm going to go from this movie to that movie, it's a very stark body contrast from these 2 women. Height-wise and body mass-wise. There's a stark contrast between the 2 women. Even looking at the poster for Fury Road, there's a stark contrast between the 2.
I didn't catch that until you mentioned that.
But the real issue I have with that is it's like, now I feel like I have to jump right into Fury Road to get the rest of the story. Whereas if this being an origin, they could have left it with her getting the girls in the truck and then driving off. Credits roll. Cool. It feels like an ending. Now it feels like the movie doesn't have an ending. Now I'm hoping that Fury Road, which you don't have to confirm this or not, but now I'm hoping that Fury Road gives me a conclusion to her story. Because if it does not, then now there's something lacking here in this context. Because her movie didn't end with anything that felt like a real ending for her character. Because I imagine because now you're playing a side character in his story, which is fine. But it's just it just felt weird that you're just gonna add in the scenes in the end credits, because then it's just like it felt to me like this isn't a real ending to this movie.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's really understandable. Wow. I'm lost. Well.
I feel like I just hit you with a lot of stuff that you never thought about or considered.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
And other than that, I love I love the character designs. I loved a lot of the dialogue that went there, even if she had like maybe 2 minutes of dialogue entirely. Which I understand why it made sense. Going into the movie, it was a peculiar thing. It was like, okay, once you're watching, she's trying to hide her identity and all that. Okay, no, it makes sense. I love the environments. The world. I love that the world feels more real. I've told you before, like my biggest problem with watching the original Mad Max is that I did not believe that they were in this post-apocalyptic world.
The wasteland.
I don't. In the first Mad Max movie, it's like you're not in a wasteland, bro. You have ice cream. You went mad. Max took his wife, pregnant wife, to get ice cream, dog. Like, what are you talking about? This is the apocalypse? Impossible. Like, you're just in Australia. You're just in a random part of Australia. That's what the movie felt to me. So it's like it's great that as the films went on, the world is getting more fleshed out and feels more realistic to what an apocalyptic society would be, and I appreciate that to such a high degree. I do wonder, though, and this is an easy Google search, is how much desert land like that does Australia have, if any at all? Because I know they have a lot of plain lands, but do they have actual desert like that there? I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a native. I wouldn't know. This is, like I said, it's a Google search. But that's the only thing, like, for someone that, I don't want to say cares about that, but does care, like, because, like, if you're going to make a movie and say you're in Florida, and then in the fucking movie it starts to snow, I'm going to be a little, like, I know that it don't happen like that in Florida. That whole little ice shit that we get every so-and-so winter isn't real snow. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like the ice is just covering the ground, and we're like, oh, well, it's snowing. It's not real snow, dog. So it's like, I don't know, like, I want to know, like, how much actual sandy desert do they have over there? Because the nukes ain't doing that, dog.
Wait, nukes?
Is that why the world is the way it is? When it's a nuclear war?
They're fighting for gasoline.
But I'm saying, no, but I'm saying, what was the downturn of society in the Mad Max? What made them go into an apocalypse? They showed it in Road Warrior, but I forgot.
Me too.
It was in the very beginning of that movie, and there was so much more to talk about in Road Warrior, or just to take in from Road Warrior. Road Warrior was amazing.
Yeah, it is.
But whatever it was that ruined their society, I don't believe that it would cause that whole desert shit if Australia doesn't have it, for real. But that's a nitpick that doesn't really matter. But other than that, I think it was great. The score was good. It set the scene very well. The action was good.
Including the 15-minute action sequence?
Which one?
I believe it was...
I'm not sitting there counting, so I don't know which one is the 15-minute one.
I would say...
Well, when they were first going to Gastown, her and...
Praetorian Jack. Her and Praetorian... Well, it was before they collaborated. Like, remember the part where Jack threw her off the truck?
Yeah, when they're going to Gastown, they're going to Bullet Town.
Yeah, that sequence. I remember...
Okay, so it's funny you bring that up, because I did, as I was watching it, I'm like, this is a long sequence.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
I was like, this is long.
Because
the problem, the issue I think with that scene, now they bring it up, for me was like, there's no variety here in terms of what the action we're seeing. It's a lot of, we're throwing sticks with bombs on them, hoping we hit. the target.
But didn't
I
you have
love
fun with
the inventiveness of the Raiders
it?
flying up in the parachutes, and I was wondering if the homie with the horns was going to make an appearance again. The one that came in, he had like the tentacle parachute.
That was the first time that I've ever saw him.
Okay.
Like, if you've seen Fury Road, the like a lot of stuff in Furiosa look new, and I was like surprised. I was like, oh, I was like,
Well, everything to me, everything's new to me in that film. So,
yeah, you know how it is.
but I was like, yeah, this is a long scene. This is very long. Like,
You didn't at least enjoy it. Like, weren't you like gripped down? Like, oh shit, you know?
I think I was more disappointed in Immortal Joe's army not understanding that if you're on something that's moving and you're trying to hit something that's moving, ideally you don't throw it at it, you throw it ahead of it. Because if you're going like this, if I throw it this way, ideally you're gonna run into it. If you're going at a pace and I throw it at you, it's always gonna miss. So for me, I'm sitting there like, and all movies do that. Like a lot of movies that have action scenes and shit like that, you see that routinely, and I'm just like I remember being a kid playing Call of Duty, right? And it was World at War. It's the plane scene. You're the Americans fighting kamikazes and the Japanese fighter planes. And my pops, who's in the military, was like, "Yo, shoot before the plane. You keep aiming at the plane, shoot before the plane." And I started shooting before the plane, and lo and behold, all the bullets started hitting the enemy planes, and I started taking them out. So it's like I learned that lesson maybe at 12 years old, 13 years old. Attack before if the thing is moving. Attack ahead of them. You know what I'm saying? So in this context, I'm like, now one of you knows. Like and I get it. It's a post-apocalyptic world. What education do these guys have? Zilch, nada, nothing. But you would think if I'm Praetorian Jack,
yeah,
and I'm the nicest in all the lands, he's an expert shot. He would tell the boys, "Hey, yo, do this instead of this, because it'll make your life easier, make your job easier, make the likelihood of you making it back more. It'll increase the likelihood." But I guess not. I don't know. But that's the type of shit that I'm just like, nah. But so I'm sitting there watching him like, that's what's going through my mind. I'm like, there's a lot of missing here. A lot of missing here. You guys are.
No, that's interesting.
You guys ain't good at your jobs. I mean, homie made it to Bullet Town with nobody left besides her. Absurdity. Because it really is like, you introed him as this great driver.
Yeah.
And then in the very next scene, we see like, had Furiosa not been there, he would have been dead. So how good of a driver is he? How good at his job is he? And that's the type of thing, like with storytelling, it's very important to think about shit like that.
Wow.
Right? Like, one thing I appreciate about, and I've never read the book, I'm going to read the book eventually. I've only read Fire and Blood by George R. R. Martin, but it's like for Game of Thrones, it's like, when watching the show, one thing I appreciated is like, all right, Ned Stark, great swordsman. Jaime Lannister, great swordsman. Jon Snow, not a great swordsman. Every presentation we got of Jon Snow, and no one ever said he wasn't a great swordsman, but he's young, there's inexperience. But every presentation we got of him, we were seeing him at the losing end of a battle. And it was more or less luck that got him the win. And which makes it a lot more practical. We're not being told, yo, he's an expert fighter, he's a prodigy, and then he's losing a lot of battles, and then just getting near wins. No, we're not getting that. It's the importance of context. We're seeing a young man as a sort of a young knight, not even a knight, he wasn't a knight. This young bastard prince who's just trying his best in this chaotic world. All right, cool. And then everyone that was touted to be a phenomenal fighter, we saw that they were really good fighters. Like, wow. So with Praetorian Jack, it's like, you're touted to be something grand, and then the next scene, like I said, if Furiosa wasn't there, you'd be dead. How great are you? It wasn't until we see, I feel like the scene before, when they went to Bullet Town, and homie took over Big Nose. It wasn't until then it's like, oh yeah, he really is that nice. He handled business expertly by himself. You know what I'm saying? Now, there were obviously scenes within the 15 minutes fight where he was blowing people's heads off, pop out, whatever. He knew to maneuver, knew to dodge. But I think objectively in that scene was just a little like oof, like there were certain things that made me gave me more questions
I
than satisfaction.
I see.
Mm.
I see. Mm. So you're saying there's a lot of cliches in this film? Is that what you're
I'm
saying?
not saying cliches.
Okay.
Besides like the throwing shit, but I'm not gonna say it's a cliche because that's just there's a better way to build tension on whether or not a character is going to make it or not. You know what I'm saying?
Well, since you're mentioning this,
Yeah.
I would say Fury Road has the best representation of those action
Mm.
scenes. Like, I will say that I want to say I appreciate George Miller trying to make Furiosa more narrative driven than Fury Road. Like Fury Road is basically just a road chase film. Like there's no story to it except you know I don't want to spoil it
Much
for you.
much like the very first one really was like it was a lot of just chasing.
Well, not like that, but it has more lot going on. It has better technology,
Well, I'm not gonna say
and
better technology, dog. It's
we
post
have
apocalypse.
we technically when filmmaking
Oh,
wise,
all right.
like
For the cinematography and all that.
yeah, and I feel like the we sympathize with
Mm.
the characters, but for Furiosa, since you brought up a lot of those things, I thought you gave me a lot to think about, and I'm like, yeah, it's not that good as I wanted it to be, in my opinion. So I would say Fury Road is the best, is better than Furiosa. Although I do love that they try to show us an origin story of Furiosa. That I feel like with a lot of stuff that you broke down to
Mm.
me, I feel like that I don't think it's that good, in my opinion. In a
No,
way, it's good but not great. But I feel like
all right.
I don't know.
Now I will say like I commend the effort and I love the fact that all right, you're doing an origin story and you somehow were able to make this 2 hours and 30 minutes, however long,
Hmm.
excuse me, enjoyable for that long with a character that doesn't talk much. That takes a certain type of insight, a certain type of writer, because her dialogue really was so few and far in between.
Yeah,
Like in an hour time span, she probably talks maybe 3 times in the first hour, maybe two in the second hour, and the most dialogue in the last 30 minutes you get is when she's in front of I don't remember what his name is, Big Nose.
Dementis, I
Dementis,
believe.
yes. When she's
Well,
in front of Dementis, right? Like so to be able to tell a story like that,
well, that was George's intention for her not to talk that
and
much.
that's great. Now I don't know if she's like that in Fury Road, but to have a character like that, like I'm like, that's what I'm saying. Like to be able to write a movie, and here's your main character, and she doesn't talk for more than 10 minutes of the movie. I don't know if she does or doesn't, but it's like she talks for such a little amount of time, and it's still an intriguing story. It's something to be like, all right, like that's commendable. Like he knows what the fuck he's doing.
Hmm.
Now the missteps are missteps. Like I said, I don't know what exactly it was that made me feel the latter half of the film just felt a lot more hollow than the beginning. There was something missing. I don't know what it was. Maybe I needed more from her even,
Mm.
right? Because it's like now you're a Praetorian or whatever she's regarded as,
Imperator
a
Furiosa.
curator.
Imperator Furiosa.
Right now she has that title, and it's like they don't know you're a woman. Why don't you talk more?
Mm.
Maybe I want to see her be more aggressive verbally, and you know what I'm saying. Maybe that's what it is.
Hmm.
Because I'm used to from watching the other Mad Max films. For the most part, everyone's talking shit. Everyone is a lot of shit talking back and forth, and we don't trust you. I do trust you. Oh, do this deal for me. No, I don't want to do this deal for you. Like, there's so much back and forth dialogue that I guess at a certain point, once they knew, maybe I felt like there should have been more from her.
Mm.
Give me some more from her. Her actions speak a lot, but there's power in the word, and I think the film would have benefited from us seeing that switch of now she's talking more, now she's more open, even if that openness is her being aggressive and spewing venom towards other individuals that she's bossing around. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That's my opinion. I think that could have helped the film. It wasn't a bad film to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
As to why it flopped, why do you think? I'm curious about what you think.
What I think, I, I personally, I don't know, to be honest. Like, I feel like it would have been worth going to see it in the big screen,
Yeah.
but it turns out probably it's because people, I don't know, probably it's, I personally don't know what to think. Like, I have a hard time thinking, why did this movie flop? Because it is good, but not great. Like, it's not grandiose as Furiosa, but
I
I'm like,
I think that the issue solely comes down to one came out in 2015, and you waited so long to put this one out. Now I don't know why it took them that long. I don't know if Warner Brothers had it on the back burner. I don't know if it was his decision. Maybe he in the last 3 years was like, oh, maybe I should do an origin story for her. I don't know, but I think that decision hurt it a lot. I think this film coming out in 2017 or 2018
mhm.
would be a lot more successful than right now because of the distance that they had for the film. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just in my I think that was the biggest holdup for the film itself. I don't think audiences are gonna wait that long for a continuation of something like that. Especially when it's like the selling point was for me back then when I saw the trailers for Fury Road for me wanting to see it even though I never got to, it was because Tom Hardy was in the film. Me being a fan of Tom Hardy and being in so many good movies, right? Up to that point, he was in so many good films. So it's like Tom Hardy was a selling point. I didn't realize who was playing Furiosa or who the hell Furiosa's character was until honestly this movie came out. I'm gonna be honest with you, like she was just some chick that was bold to me. I didn't even realize it was Charlize Theron playing her until more recently. So it's like Charlize Theron for me was never the selling point. But when we have these conversations, one must consider who the cast is. And I would argue though that Charlize Theron's name brings in money. When you think about Alien Covenant, not Covenant, my bad.
Romulus.
Prometheus.
Prome-
Prometheus.
Prometheus.
Wasn't it Prometheus?
It's Romulus. Alien Romulus.
No, because Remus and Romulus were the ones that led to the creation of Rome. Prometheus was damned by Zeus for trying to make fire. Prometheus is the one with the the space jockeys and all that. That story. She was in that one. Remember, she's the daughter of whatever his name was, Wayland.
I hadn't seen that movie in a long time, but your point is?
That I don't know what the financial success of that film was, but Charlize Theron was in the film, and to my knowledge, she was the biggest actor in the film. You look at the last 2 to 3 Fast and Furious films, she's a part of them, right? Like when you're part of the biggest blockbuster films, you are a selling point for Mad Max. You know what I'm saying? She is a bigger star than Tom Hardy. Maybe not right now. What was Tom Hardy's last film? The Bike Riders. I really enjoyed that film.
I've never seen it.
It was pretty good. Nothing great, but I enjoyed it. I don't know what film he did before that, but she was definitely the bigger star, the bigger name when Mad Max Fury Road came out. So it's like one cannot act like that's not the selling point. When you look at this film, it's like, yeah, Chris Hemsworth, cool, but I would argue the problem with Chris Hemsworth is he's had more okay films than good films. And a lot of those okay films are all films that went straight to streaming or that were just straight on streaming services. A lot of them on Netflix.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing, right? Those Netflix films aren't low budget films. They're big budget films a lot of the times. But there's a disconnect of stardom there. You know what I'm saying? And I think the disconnect comes from when you're a star from Netflix, it's almost a different hill to climb in order to become a star. Like you look at Millie Bobby Brown, I would say like the fact that her star grew to the degree it was simply because of how phenomenal of a child actress she is, and the consistency to every role she brought. Whereas you look at like the rest of the crew from Stranger Things, everything else they've all been in has seemed very lackadaisical in terms of the success and the writing and like the even their performances. Not because they're not putting the best performances they can, but they're not on that level yet. So I think in the minds of viewers, there is a disconnect between, oh yeah, big box office movie success and streaming success. Because even Millie Bobby Brown's success, a lot of times, her actual live box office movie success, I mean, it was like Godzilla, you know what I'm saying? But it's not a big, like, she wasn't the selling point there. It was Godzilla. And
Yeah.
what other films has she been in that haven't been streaming? I can't really think of any at the time.
Me neither.
So I think with Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth, it's like Anya Taylor-Joy has been a phenomenal supporting character. But I don't think she's been given the trust of having a solo film until now to really be that titular main character. Because even in Split, I ain't really watched Split for her.
Me neither.
You watched it for, why can't I remember his name? James?
I believe, I don't know how to pronounce it.
McAvoy?
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal actor.
Oh, yes.
He's a phenomenal actor. But and she killed it in Split. Like, I've never seen anything she's been in that I'm like, I don't like. You know what I'm saying? Like, she kills every role she gets. But I think the audience doesn't have as much faith in her yet because she hasn't been given the opportunity to be a mainstay, main character yet. And I think that's the issue as to one of the reasons why this film flopped. I think they waited too long, and then the two main actors for it weren't actors that you would look at as, oh yeah, they can be the heads of a solo film and lead properly and get it to that threshold of success. And in the minds of fans, that does a lot. Now, I did hear someone else say that they believe that it was a marketing issue, that Warner Brothers didn't market the movie good enough. And so I'm going to ask you, do you feel like as the movie was coming out, did you see a lot of ads for it?
To be honest, no. Only on social media. That's how I feel. That's from what I saw. I only saw on social media. Like me and my friend shared the trailers and all the advertisements on there.
All right, but I kind of feel the same way because like I felt like I saw Furiosa ads in YouTube. I saw them all on social media. Granted, I follow her and Chris Hemsworth on social media, so it's like of course I'm going to see the content. But I feel like that's enough, me personally. I feel like that's enough. But let me ask you: was there any nudity, quote unquote, in Fury Road? No?
No, sir.
And I'm thinking about the older ones, and I'm like, would I take my kid to see any of the Mad Max films? I don't know.
Wait till they're a little older.
But that's what I'm saying too. You know, so that's what I think that's the other issue. Also, that's the fourth issue we could come into. Is just like if we want to say the marketing was an issue. Also, I think the other issue then would be the Mad Max world isn't a world that you can confidently say, all right, let me take my daughter or my son to go watch this. They have to be of a certain age. What age? That depends on the parent. But most parents, me, I don't care. I would take my young brother. Let's go watch this shit right now. He in like first grade. I don't care. I think he'd love it, but I don't give a shit. Like there was nothing objective in the movie, in my opinion, that was just like, yeah, a kid can't see this. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of,
I would say that Fury Road is like the only Mad Max movie that we can show to kids because it doesn't have none of that nudity or.
No, Furiosa didn't have no nudity like that.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I mean. Like no, I don't know if I'm able to mention it on camera.
All the Fury Road, all the Mad Max films are definitely they're made for a teen audience, a more mature audience, 100%. And I think that weighs ultimately as a big reason as to why a lot of people didn't go see the film as well. We're living in a society where not many people can afford to go to the movies.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're going to go to the movies, ideally, and you have a family, ideally you're going to go see something that you can watch with the family. So are you going to risk the money on a Furiosa? when that's just going to come out on streaming in a month because well anything that Warner Brothers puts out literally comes out a month later, typically on Max, right? Especially if it's bad. So that's actually I'm a little disappointed that I'm not disappointed. I'm a little upset that Warner Brothers doesn't own the Alien franchise because I'm like I would love to go watch Romulus right now on streaming, but because I loved it in theaters. But yeah, well, I think that plays a part in it as well as to why people didn't go watch Furiosa because it's like it'll be out in like a month on streaming, and Warner Brothers created that for themselves. That's a burden they made for themselves, 100%. So, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to say about the film before we get out of here?
Well, I will say, well, would you like to give the ratings now or
I mean, we
afterwards?
can give it a rating. We used to feel like it gets out of 5 stars.
Ooh. To be honest, ever since you broke a lot of stuff down, I've looked at a film in a different hole, and I don't know. It is very entertaining in a way with a lot of good action sequences, and the performances overall, the performances are hit and miss, in my opinion, and the visual effects are not that good. That's all I gotta say. And overall, I will give it not a. I don't know. I'm debating between a 3.5 and a 4.5 between those two line between those two ratings. Like I'm having a hard time debating what to give it.
So go in the middle. Is it 3.5 and 4.5? Say 4.
That'll do for now.
So I liked the effects. I want to throw that out there. I thought the explosions and all that did what they did.
They were
The
good.
shit falling. I thought all that was good. The only thing, like I said, effects wise, was the green screen nonsense.
Yeah.
Other than that, I like the performances. I didn't really feel like anyone did the performance bad. I think everyone hit the performance off to the degree of what you would expect from a Mad Max film, and what they've created. Ultimately, I feel like it can get a solid 3 out of 5. Maybe I'm a little harsher. I don't know.
That's understandable though. That's real
But
understandable.
yeah, I feel like 3 is a nice area. You understand? Nice little. Do you feel like audiences should go watch the film?
I would say they should form their own opinion. I'm not gonna tell them, oh, don't watch this. Form your own opinion. Form your own opinion.
Don't worry. We'll get to a point where we'll have a film that y'all shouldn't watch.
Wait, what?
I said we'll get to a point where we'll have a film that they shouldn't watch. We'll come to that. We'll talk afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what I'm saying? I want.
In conclusion, I think I'm gonna give it 3.5 since you gave it a low rating.
You don't got to copy. You don't got to.
No, 3.5 because my gut tells me I don't want to give it 4 or 4.5. It's a 3.5. So screw it. That's how I feel.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, all right. 3.5, 3, close to the threshold. I feel like this is the closest I think we've ever been with a opinion of a film in terms of the ranking. I want to ask any viewers to recommend any other movies for us to talk about in the comment section below. Let us know your opinions on the film Furiosa, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and put the notifications on for us. This has been the Casual and the Cinephile.